Welcome back to Passionately Catholic. I am Anthony Digmann. The topic that I want to take a look at today is, we know that evil completely twists the way we look at everything, but there's a couple of key ways that I think that evil corrupts and flips on its head how we look at life and afterlife. Okay, so one of these is when we look toward the afterlife, right? There's really only two options for us, okay? The options are either we are a saint in heaven, which means we've reached Christian perfection. We are absolutely in love with God. There is nothing else between us and God. There's no disordered attachments in our life to sin or to anything else, right? That He's really our number one, right? And we're fully in love with Him, and we've become completely perfected in a moral sense as well as spiritual sense, okay, completely, right? And the other option is we're damned for all eternity in hell. Okay, so those are our options. And I think, especially like as Catholics, we sometimes play around with this idea, this assumption. It's like, well, I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect, and yeah, I'll go to purgatory and then get cleaned up a little bit and then I'll go to heaven. Here's the thing, okay, like if we shoot for the low bar of purgatory, but here's the thing, like purgatory is an absolute gift and mercy of God for those of us who don't quite hit 100%, because heaven is 100%. Like heaven is perfect, and for us to go to heaven, sometimes we make this presumption, oh yeah, everybody dies and then they go to heaven if they're basically a good person. I'm basically a good person. No, heaven is perfection. It's like 100% in class, right? And we look at that and we go, oh, who really gets 100% in class? Well, you know what? There are some who do, okay? And we're all called to that. That's the thing that we miss, is that we are called to 100%. And sometimes we set the bar low and we're like, oh, I just want to pass. Like if I just get a D or a D minus, then I'll be able to go to purgatory and God will finish up the rest of the process and get me to 100%. But wow, like if we're shooting for a D or a D minus, like where's the love for God in that? Like where is our embracing our call to the Christian life, to that universal call to holiness? And furthermore, we also get this twisted in our head. We think, if I just get a D, I'll actually have more fun. I'll get to sin a little bit, get to have more fun. The reality is that couldn't be further from the truth. Sin, all it does is destroy and hurt our relationship with God, with others, and with ourselves. Let's be honest, sin is stupid, okay? And if we could think clearly all the time, we wouldn't be deceived by the lies of the evil one and consider sin. Right? If we could really think clearly and think it all through, we'd realize that every sin is just going to make me unhappy. It's going to make my relationships worse. It's going to hurt everyone else around me. And we wouldn't sin if we could think clearly, right? But we can't, okay? We struggle with that as human beings. God give us the grace to be able to reason clearly and to be good moral agents and use our free will for the good. Please, Lord, fill us with that grace. Okay, so we get that part really backwards, right? In terms of looking at heaven is like, you know what? To go to heaven, we really need to be perfect. And let's not shoot for a D, okay? Let's be shooting for 100%, right? So if we miss, maybe we hit 90 instead of if we're shooting for a D and we end up with an F, like that's damnation for all eternity, right? Why would we shoot so low, okay? Let's shoot for an A. Let's shoot for 99, 100%, right? And maybe by God's grace, we'll be able to attain that in this life, because if we don't attain it in this life, we have to be purified in the next, out of love for God and out of what heaven is, right? Here's the other thing that we get really, really messed up, is that sometimes we don't even engage in pursuing a life of virtue and holiness and growing closer to the Lord, a moral life, living a spiritual life, relationship with God, because we think that in this life, it's either we're a saint or forget about it. Like we have to be perfect in this life. That is so opposite. Like that's how it works in the afterlife. Okay, that's the heaven or hell option, and purgatory is, kind of like if you're in the D, C, B, A range and not at 100%, you have purgatory to purify us to get us to heaven. Okay, but on earth, this is where we have the opportunity to not be at 100%. This is like the study room okay? Or during the class before taking the final exam. This is where we practice. This is where we can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes and to learn and to grow and to get closer to scoring that 100% by the time we get to the final exam. And yet we think, oh, if I can't get 100% now, if I can't be a saint now, then what's the point of pursuing a life of virtue, a life of holiness? What's the point in pursuing living the Christian life? That is so backwards. You with me on this? You know, that it's just this crazy thing about how evil flips on its head and corrupts so many of the truths of our faith. And I think that these are interesting ones to consider. So instead, let's look at here in this life. Let's see this as the opportunity to grow and get closer to that 100% over the course of the class, over the course of the semester or the year, the academic year, to grow in virtue and holiness and to shoot for that 100%. And even if we don't make it, praise and thanks be to God for His mercy that purgatory exists, that we can be purified there. If you agree with this, if you like this video, click that like button. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join us on the Passionately Catholic team and share this with anyone you know who could benefit from it. May God bless you abundantly, and I'll see you again in the next episode.